Hey there everyone! In this video, I'll show you how to achieve this cool effect using Create Studio. So let's get started. I've already placed a rectangle on my timeline to serve as a contrasting background for this demonstration. Next, I have a few images in my media folder that I'd like to incorporate into this animation. Feel free to use similar images for your own project. I'll bring one of these images onto my canvas along with a rectangle. I'll resize the shape a bit, round its corners, and then click on this icon to center the new shape. Now I will rename this one as Track Matte Mask 1. Then I click here to make a copy of this shape, and I will rename this one Track Matte Mask 2. I will make one more copy, and this one I will simply rename it as Mask. I will select these last two copies and bring them here on a side. I will come back to them a little bit later. Now, onto the clouds image. I'll head over to Settings, scroll down to find the Track Matte option. I'll choose to mask my image with the first rectangle I named earlier as Track Matte Mask 1. And remember to switch it to Alpha. Let's add some movement to our image now. I want it to smoothly shift from right to left and then back again inside the Track Matte Mask. Here's how we'll do it. First, I'll select my image and apply a custom animation. I'll choose the position and opt for Expo Easing. With the playhead at the very beginning where the first keyframe is, I'll move the image to the right as the starting point. Then I'll jump to the last keyframe and move the image to the opposite side. To make more details visible, I'll slightly downsize the image. However, this resizing alters my animation start and end positions. So I'll need to readjust the image's starting point by going back to the first keyframe. After that, I'll move the playhead to the last keyframe once more and shift the image to the left for its end position. Next, around this point, I'll introduce another custom animation with Expo Easing, and I'll assign a position animation. Skipping straight to the last keyframe, I'll bring the image back to the right side, and that way, we achieve this captivating animation effect. Let's tidy up our timeline to make space for the next media. I'll select these two masks on the side and move them up one track. Next, I'll bring in this video, but it's a bit lengthy for my current needs, so I'll trim it right here. Now it's time to reintroduce Track Matte Mask 2 above my video. Heading to Settings, scrolling down to Track Matte, I'll choose Track Matte Mask 2 as a mask for my video, ensuring to switch to Alpha. I'll apply the same two custom animations to this video as I did with the cloud background image. I'll select Position and opt for Expo Easing. This time, I'll start with the video on the opposite side by moving it to the left. Then, at the last keyframe, I'll shift it back to the right. At the same point, I'll add a second custom animation with Expo Easing and select a position animation. Moving to the last keyframe, I'll reposition the video to the center. To enhance the visuals, I'll slightly scale down the video. Let's add a circle to the mix now. I'll scale it down to fit perfectly within the rounded rectangle shape of my video and image. Just like that, a perfect fit. After selecting the circle, I'll right-click and create a group. Opening this group, I'll make some adjustments inside. First up, I'll change the circle's color to white. Then, in the border settings, I'll choose a yellow color for the border and set a width of 2. Adding a subtle touch, I'll give the border a shadow. I'll direct the shadow downwards, set a distance of 2, apply a blur effect of 5, and match the shadow color to the yellow border. Now it's time to add a custom animation for the circle. I'll select Opacity and choose Expo Easing. For the entry keyframe, I'll drop the opacity to 0. By the last keyframe, the opacity will be at 100%, creating a smooth fade-in animation for the circle. Here's a handy tip for you. You might be thinking, why not just use a fade-in motion preset instead of creating a custom animation? Well, the reason I opt for a custom animation is to ensure that the fade-in effect on my circle aligns perfectly with the position animations I've applied to my image and video. Through my experience with Create Studio, I've found that custom animations and motion presets behave differently, even with identical easing and duration settings. To achieve that seamless and synchronized animation, I always prefer sticking to the same style of animation for consistency and a polished finish. I'll shift a few frames to the right and introduce another custom animation with the same settings: expo, easing, and opacity. Positioning my playhead at the last keyframe, I'll adjust the opacity back to 0. I have this lovely moon image in my media folder that I'll place on the canvas. I'll double-click on the image to enter cropping mode and adjust it to focus solely on the moon. Then I'll scale it up to match the size of my circle and ensure it's perfectly centered. Let's give this moon image some lively animations too. I'll apply opacity and rotation, both with expo easing. The initial position looks good, so I'll head straight to the last keyframe. Here, I'll rotate the moon image to around 180% and fade the opacity to 0. For the second custom animation, I'll reverse the process. Using expo easing once more, I'll choose rotation and opacity. With the playhead at the last keyframe, I'll reset the rotation from 180% to 0 and bring the opacity back up to 100%. Notice how these custom animations I applied to the white circle and the moon image will smoothly transition from the moon to the white circle, symbolizing the sun. With the transition animation in place, I now need to create an animation for the moon and sun to move from left to right and then back, mimicking the action of a toggle switch button. Alright, with my moon and sun group selected, I'll introduce a custom animation. It's going to be, you guessed it, position with expo easing. The starting position will remain unchanged. I'll simply shift my playhead to the last keyframe and move my group over to the right side of the rounded rectangle. To return it back, I'll add another custom animation with expo easing and position once again. With the playhead at the last keyframe, I'll smoothly bring the moon and sun group back to the left side. I've noticed that my starry sky video is slightly off to the right, so I'll simply select it and adjust its position to the left to align it perfectly. Everything seems to be coming together nicely. However, as the moon moves to the right and transforms into the sun, I also want to reveal my cloud background image. First off, I'll select the Track Matte Mask 2, which serves as the mask for my night scene video, and apply a custom animation. I'll stick with position and expo easing. Skipping ahead to the last keyframe, I'll smoothly shift the mask of my video to the right. Next, I'll introduce another custom animation to reverse that movement. Once again, I'll use expo easing and position. With the playhead at the last keyframe, I'll bring the mask back to its original position. To ensure everything aligns perfectly, I'll access the properties and reset the position value back to 0. Now let's bring back the final mask I have on the side. I'll select all elements on the canvas, making sure to exclude the background and the mask itself. With those 5 elements in between selected, I'll group them together. Next, with both the group and the mask selected, I'll right-click and choose to mask the group with the mask shape. Time to hit play and see our animation in action. And just like that, we've crafted a stunning day-to-night switch button animation. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and picked up some neat tips along the way. If you found value in this tutorial, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Your support motivates me to create more fantastic tutorials just for you. I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Any feedback or challenges you faced while using Create Studio. Feel free to leave a comment below or share what tutorial you'd like to see next. Your input is invaluable as we explore creativity together. Thank you for joining me. Let's have fun animating and bring something truly extraordinary to life.